Here we go.
Noel Nation, welcome into another special episode of the Renegade Rundown. As always, kind of adjacent to me, 45 degrees, my beautiful co-host, Jen Santee, aka at Jen Noel 2013, or at Jen Santee 1890. You can find her on X. Sorry about that. We've got our friend Vince at VC Noel on X. You can find him from the Garnet and Old podcast. Did I say that correct?
Absolutely. You got it, brother.
Absolutely. Super happy. I think it's the first time on the show, so we've been talking about it for a while. Super happy to have you with us. And of course, our attorney friend right below me, Doug Rohan, attorney at law. We're just going to have a lot of fun with this one. This is going to be there's a little bit of stuff going on all over the place. We've got a nuclear explosion coming around the corner with the portal kind of opening up. We've got all these court cases. We did a show Tuesday kind of live after the 8-9 hour court case. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. It was pretty discombobulated. We were a little all over the place. And myself specifically, it was kind of hard to really digest it all. But we've had a bit of time to talk about things and the kind of new angles that have cases that come out. So glad to have Doug here with us. We'll probably talk about that for the first 30-40 minutes, and then open up the phone lines and then get into the spring stuff afterwards. Doug's is going to be with us for the first half of the show. So we always appreciate his time, of course, as always. But how's everybody doing? How's the weekend going? How's Jen's kitties doing? Do we have any updates there before we get into football?
No, just the doctor said she's fine. Just it's a waiting game. So we're just waiting it out.
Okay, well, keep those prayers going for the kitty. Also need a personal prayer request. My stepdad had a heart event this afternoon. Not sure exactly where it is, how severe it was or everything. So just we get some prayer requests out there for him, for my mom and his family, his mom and his kids and everything. That would be great. And we can get into the lawsuit a little bit. There's one specific thing that I wanted to talk about, and I guess it's as good a place to start as any, is the kind of cutoff date. Is the ACC and ESPN, are they inextricably tied together, or does the ACC have an opportunity in February of 2025 to just shop these things to Apple, to X if they want to get it, to all these different things, Amazon Prime? I personally on this show have really kind of my interpretation of it, the people that I've spoke to, the few insiders I've got to speak to, lawyers throughout the thing, I've kind of interpreted it as, look, ESPN has till February of 2025. If they don't extend this thing, Florida State and Clemson, that means they're gone. And when they're gone, I cannot wrap my head around anybody out there, if not the worldwide leader of sports, who's going to be willing to do anything near that number on that conference. That included FSU and Clemson. So maybe I said it a bit rigidly, got kind of called out on it, like just because, technically in the way the lawyers are saying it is 2036. But since then, doing some research, having some conversations, I'm feeling a lot better than where I was Tuesday when I wasn't so sure on where we were at on that. And again, when you look at Clemson's claims and when you dig in and really look at it, there really is a case to be made that, when ESPN doesn't extend this thing, that's it. The grant of rights is done. It's not going to get picked up. But I know you have some insight on that, and I'm sure everybody has questions, but I guess I'll let you swing off at that first thing to start us off.
Well, first, let me say it's very okay, George, to not know exactly what your final opinion is within 30 minutes of the end of a hearing. It is reasonable and it is rational to let your thoughts kind of mull over what you're hearing. So that's perfectly reasonable. The 24-hour news cycle has made it so that that's not allowed. But as a real person digesting this information, do absolutely take comfort in knowing that it does take a few days for this to kind of percolate and get through. I think you are correct. I just think that's one version of the future universe. We are literally in the ACC multiverse right now, and we just don't know which version of the ACC is going to be here 6 weeks from now, 6 months from now, or 6 years from now. Yes, your version of the interpretation, I think, is correct. I did a post on this as well. In my review of the grant of rights after the Clemson lawsuit, It is clear to me that the grant of rights names ESPN and ESPN only. In fact, they name them 9 times in just the paragraph regarding the grant of rights. So the grant of rights was a grant of rights to ESPN. If there is no ESPN agreement, there is no grant of rights. They could have crafted the document to allow for other media partners by simply saying for ESPN and any other subsequent media partner that the ACC has, but they didn't. They crafted the grant of rights for ESPN, so ESPN absolutely controls and is driving this bus. The question is, does it go to 2037, 2036, 2027, 2025, or July or June 30th? There's a new theory out there that's saying, look, we had the Magnificent Seven. We came up with this plan last year. The new members, even though they've been voted in, they don't actually get voting rights until July 1st. So if somebody is brave among the group of 7 that theorized, let's just disband the ACC, June 30th might be a really, really, really big day.
Absolutely. There's no doubt. Like you have that June 30th date around the corner, like you said, where if you only get those 7 teams, you can close this thing off. You said it, no ESPN, no grant of rights. As that would go, that would take us through 2027 because that's when the contract goes through. Okay. We're just talking about an extension, guys. This doesn't mean, if they don't extend it in 2025, that's it. It goes away. We don't have to worry about 25 and 26. Florida State's really going to have to worry about that. Now, there has been a theory floated out there about a composition clause within the contract that could possibly completely kill this thing without ESPN even having to say, look, we don't want to extend it, and going through that litigation of possibly moving on to an Apple or something like that. I don't believe it. I think Florida State, I think everybody is committed for 2024. I think it's something people don't really understand, that all this stuff kind of has to happen a year behind. That's why we have till September 15th at midnight to say, look, we're going out to the Big Ten in 2025. So just curious there, if you think there's any possibility of that, and kind of just a comment on there. I know that's kind of the conversation me and you had offline.
Yeah. So August 15th is the deadline, not September 15th.
Oh, excuse me, guys.
And
August 15th.
I do believe it would be catastrophic for there to be a termination of the ESPN agreement prior to 2024. Now, as part of whatever ESPN pulls, they could say, look, the 2024 schedule is already fixed. We're going to broadcast it. What we're going to do after 2024. I cannot imagine a world in which ESPN is not broadcasting ACC games in 2024. With that being said, we only have 10% of the ESPN agreement with the ACC. We don't know what the other 90% of that agreement says. There very well may be, and probably should be, something in there that gives ESPN to respond to the ACC's failure to keep everybody in check. And should Clemson and Florida State both formally announce we're out, whether that happens before or after August 6th, 15th, I do think that's likely there's some kind of provision in that contract where ESPN can say, peace out. We don't even have to go through the end of 2027.
Facts. Don't let me hog all the questions. If you guys have anything, Vince, Jen, definitely speak up, because I will talk all night long without stopping.
I think
You're
the
good
only
right
thing,
now.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would add is, those other schools were brought in to shore up the embankment, right? Because Florida State and Clemson leave, and if there is a composition component to the deal, that was the point of bringing these schools that really don't bring much value at all in terms of viewership, football prowess, or whatever. We can talk about SMU back in the day, whatever. But that's why I think the June 30th thing is super important. We all believe that Florida State believes they have a super strong case, and I think they want to know kind of where this thing is heading before these other schools that really should have no say in the matter start to have a say.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really a question. Sorry, it was just a comment.
Well,
No, that's fine, man. That's
let me
what we're gonna
add
do.
one
Sorry, go
thing.
ahead.
Let me add one thing to what you said that sparked my antenna. And really, there's two composition clauses as we lose George. There is one that we know about, which is that the ACC has to have 14 members to be a viable conference. So that is exactly why, to Vince's point, they brought in the other members to shore up the existence of the ACC after the departure of whoever is going to depart. The other tinfoil hat theory that we're talking about is what's in the ESPN agreement, where there may also be a composition clause. So let's make sure we're not mixing those two, and we're clear on those two distinctions.
So the biggest point here to me, before we move on and get into other aspects of this, what we talked about past 27, if there's no ESPN, there's no grant of rights. Guys, we've pretty much got to the point, and this was one of the biggest thing, in my opinion, on our court case in Tallahassee. Judge Cooper really made the ACC lawyer kind of spell out exactly what it's going to take for FSU to leave. We didn't quite get there with the media rights. There's going to be a lot more talking, getting into the weeds there. But we know for a fact it's $130 to $140 million for FSU to pay to get out. Now, should they pay that exit fee? And the same thing with Clemson. And this is where I've been going all along with this ESPN thing. At that point, ESPN, there's just no way. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they lock it up through 2036 at the same thing. But if they know FSU's gone and FSU has to figure in, okay, even if they have to pay 2 years at that exorbitant rate that the SEC's come up with, or the ACC, excuse me, whatever it is, 60 million, something close to that. They came up with 600 million over the 9-10 years. They're willing to do that. We've talked about it a lot here, that 200 million around there. That's well within the idea of what they think could possibly happen, and they would pay. Now we keep getting lower and lower the more we talk about this. And I don't want to talk in circles, but I just thought it was real important to kind of point that out. Another thing that was floated out there that's kind of just something that we've been talking about all along. I don't think it's wrong. We've talked about it a ton. There is an opportunity for the SEC to bring a FSU and a Clemson and to be able to get a deal done to possibly keep that grant of rights alive and adjusted, and everybody win here. Because in that position, we found out in the court case, as I stated, the judge really made him point out exactly what would happen. At the point when FSU and Clemson left, the rights would go back to the ACC. So when the ACC sells them to SEC, to ESPN, then, I mean, really the way you look at it, the money's spread around, but half goes to the FSU, half goes to ESPN. Whether they're in the SEC or the ACC, they've still got those same exact two teams locked down. So it would really be, it would be great. Personally, I don't think it happens. I think there's too much bad blood. I think FSU doesn't want anything to do with ESPN or the ACC. I think, things keep coming out more and more. We've had more rock solid plans about that medical research facility getting built on campus. I'm all Big Ten, but there is that, opportunity there. And I'm curious on everybody's kind of opinion there, and, Doug's for the legal implications, of course.
I've spoken to the leadership. That's one thing that has been very exciting about this platform that you all have given me, and elevating my status as an expert on this issue. When I visited FSU, I had lots of handshakes with lots of important people that came up to me. I wasn't having to chase them down. So that was very exciting. And we didn't have any, detailed conversations. And even if we did have detailed conversations, I wouldn't share them. But what was evident to me, what was clear to me, is the SEC is the plan B. That is without question from every member that you can think of that's in leadership position that's driving this bus. They've been shaping the academics. They've been shaping the athletics. They've been shaping our Olympic sports program on a trajectory to join the Big Ten at some point down the road. I think if the doors open to leave for the SEC and the money is at or slightly more than what we're earning right now, even if it's not a full SEC share, which I think there are some bylaws that say you can't join. Maybe Vince knows this. You can't join at a 100% share to start with. Well, there is the compromise. If we get a 50% share from the SEC and a 50% split with the ACC, well, guess what? That's 110% of what we're making right now. So it would not be a terrible proposition. There are some other lawyers that have commented that it's a too favorable a deal to ESPN. Obviously, we need to see the details. We'd have to wait to see how this breaks down. But there is a scenario wherein ESPN can either be altruistic, renegotiate the ACC deal, and build it back up to a similar Power 2 conference level. But they're not going to do that because A, they're struggling financially. B, it's not in ESPN's best interest. Their duty is to their shareholders and their bottom line. And C, the ACC is not equal to the Power 2. The day the College Football Committee decided an undefeated Florida State was not going to get in was the day that we defined the Power 2, period. So we know there is a second tier. The question is, how big is that gap? How far is that separation? The ACC could negotiate its way into Power 2, ACC, Big 12, or they can fight their way to where it's Power 2, Big 12, and ACC. That's their choice, and that's what they've got to struggle with right now.
Facts. Guys, what do you guys think about the SEC
Okay,
possibility
so
there?
number one, I think that the rumor thread said it would happen within the next 24 hours, and that was 2 days ago. So I think we all know that rumor was not true. And I also do not see any other SEC team taking less money so that you can bring in Florida State. I also don't see Florida State taking that less of a share when I just don't see it. I also don't see Florida State, honestly, and this isn't about bad blood. This isn't because they hate ESPN. It's not because they hate the SEC. I don't see Florida State. I think Florida State is going to be looked at as a prize by the Big Ten. I think they're going to be looked at as a prize by the Big Ten. I think that's what they've been working for. If you see, like we've talked about, the research facilities, all these things they've been doing has been building up for that specific reason. And it is, I don't see them going to the SEC where then they would be 8th or 9th on the ring and not treated as a prize at all.
We will be the redheaded stepchild of the
Absolutely, which you just left. Yeah. So, and again, it's not about bad blood. This is about like, they want to feel like a prize. They want to feel like, I'm not saying they've been courted by the Big Ten. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the Big Ten will look at a team like Florida State as a prize. And I don't see that. Nope. Sorry. I mean, I just don't. And I also don't see ESPN doing it. I mean, again, ESPN would be essentially crushing the ACC if they do that. There is no way ESPN is going to continue this deal. I'm sorry, guys. It's just the truth. When Florida State and Clemson leave, if you don't think they're going to null and void that deal and or rework it, I don't know what to tell you. You might be living in La La Land, and I can't help you with that.
Well, let me add one other piece of seasoning to that discussion, Jen, to that point. According to this theory of ESPN salvaging the relationships and making everybody make nice, it leaves out the idea that Fox is very interested in the national brand. Fox is not going to take that lying down. What's going to happen is Fox is going to file an antitrust lawsuit.
That's exactly,
ESPN will be manipulating all of these contracts. So I don't know, on a scale from 1 to 10, I don't know how bad the Big Ten wants us or how bad SEC wants us. If SEC wants us as a 5, 6, 7, they want to establish themselves as premier, and the Big Ten really is hung up on the AAU membership at the time of the invitation, then maybe the leadership is saying, we'd like to have FSU, but we're not going to fight for it. If that's the case, then okay, yeah, maybe this whole deal works out. I just have trouble believing that's what the position is behind the scenes. I think Big Ten wants FSU, maybe Clemson, and at least one other property, whether that's North Carolina, Miami, or Georgia Tech. Please, Georgia Tech. I think they want 2 more partners, and I think the SEC wants 2 more partners. Maybe Clemson goes to the SEC. But FSU, to your point, Jen, is too big a prize for the Big Ten to allow this massaging to take place.
Yeah.
Look at it. It's just it's worth so much more. It does so many things more for Fox than it does for, the SEC. Not to cut you off, but go ahead, Jen, and then I want to get Vince to be able to.
Oh no,
comment on
I'll
this
let
as well.
Vince go because I was probably just gonna repeat whatever he's gonna say. So let him get in here.
Think about this. Think about, you're a kid and your mom and dad split up, right? And the one parent doesn't want the other parent to have, access to you, but they don't really want you, but they're going to just, they're going to fight for you just so the other parent can't have access to you. Right.
Right.
Florida State is not going to, and they don't have to, like, they don't have to just go with whoever wants them. Right. We are in a great spot. We're in a great position. And maybe like 15, 20 years ago, the SECs maybe seemed like the right place to be. And we can all argue that culturally it's the right place to be. But I'm telling you, and you guys know this, and if you're listening, you should know this. Florida State has higher aspirations in terms of academics and research and medical and all this other stuff. It's not just about football.
The Florida State Seminoles are unconquered.
So before we won't talk about this.
Flying a jet into Tallahassee trying to steal our recruits.
Amen, brother.
Can we just get a better airport
all night long? But
Lord have mercy.
Just to kind of put the final nail on this, as Spirit is kind of laughing at it. Wait till we find out some real information. But this would just kind of be the final nail in it for me, as far as thinking that ESPN and FSU were talking and there was something imminent and all this stuff. There was somebody that was noticeably missing from the courtroom that was in the courtroom in North Carolina speaking on behalf of the ACC,
Weird,
on behalf
right?
of themselves on their side. So a devil's advocate may say, we didn't even get to discovering the part that would matter to ESPN yet. Yeah, but that wasn't planned. We were planning on getting all the judgments in one day. That was the thought, or at least hearing all the complaints. So we didn't know that this was going to be two separate things. So to me, the fact that they weren't there implies that, like, they know this contract. It's busted. Grand rights it's not going to go forward, whatever the case may be. Am I reading too much into that? But I mean, even if you're talking to them, if you're trying to work things out, why aren't you there? You aren't there to, like, be able to sit down and have, that's just from somebody ignorant.
ESPN is not a party to the suit. They are not. You are reading too much into it. In North Carolina, there was an ACC motion to seal that was filed. That same motion was not filed in Florida because the ACC motion spoke about the ESPN contract. Judge Bledsoe specifically ordered and invited ESPN to participate and give their opinion as to what their view was. Truthfully, the ESPN attorneys were the best ones in the room in North Carolina. I don't know how many people have gone back and watched the video now at this point, but ESPN made some really good points as to the reasons why North Carolina should keep their agreement sealed. The problem is they also let out of the bag the truth that whatever they're trying to keep secret in North Carolina is apparently in some of the documentation that has been already filed in Florida. And the judge in North Carolina was very aggressive in inquiring, why aren't you filing these same motions in Florida? And the best response they could come up with was, if we file in Florida, we have to cite the paragraphs that we're trying to keep protected, and that will simply direct everybody's attention to the specific paragraphs that we want to keep out of the public domain. So it's a silly argument. Obviously, somebody with enough time and resources that wants to comb through the documents should be able to find what they're looking for. But it is much like we see in the news and in politics. Sometimes the fight to keep something private or to keep something out of the public eye just attracts more people to what you're trying to keep secret.
Beautiful.
The last thing ESPN wants to do is show up in the Leon County courtroom. The last thing they want to do is to do anything in the state of Florida.
They don't even want to get a question asked to them. Like, it's like, better just not be there. That does make perfect sense. Like, we see you in the back of the courtroom. Why don't you come on up and join the proceedings?
Right. Especially with Judge Cooper, the way he was Matlock.
Yeah.
He was like, hey, come on up. I got some questions for you. So
I loved how he had his binders. He had his, like, when he told them, look, like, if you get to reading your kind of prepared statement, I've read it all. There's no sense in it. But we've only got Doug for about another 20 minutes. So we'll let Vince and Jen, if you guys have any questions, anywhere you want to go with it, feel free to jump. Or if there's something Doug has on his mind, just want you guys to get a swing at it.
Well, no, I just wanted to say one more time, guys. I just think there is just no way an SEC team is going to take less money so they can bring in Florida State. It's just not going to happen. That's not on the board. There's no way that's going to happen. So I just would go ahead and put that rumor to rest that other SEC teams are going to take less money so Florida State can come in, and then Florida State only take a 50% share. Like, that's just it's not okay. It's just.
And to Jen's point, let me add this. There is a brand new $3 billion contract with the SEC. Now, it's only 3 to 5 years. We don't know the exact terms, but that's how long these contracts should be, not 20 years. But to Jen's point, that deal's already signed. So if Florida State joins, again, either ESPN has to be altruistic and voluntarily pay additional sums, or that $3 billion is being split among 2 more members, to Jen's point, bringing down everybody's share.
Florida State is not a 50% addition.
No, no.
Absolutely not. There is no doubt about it. But
Yeah,
as
we can
far
go
as,
ahead and nip that in the bud.
yeah, moving forward, as far as I guess I'll just take it to you, Doug. Is there anything the rest besides that specific point that we talked about? Was there anything kind of on the ruling of priority, the fact that we are kind of that true plaintiff? To me, and I've said this over and over, it's kind of like a true reciprocate of what you saw in North Carolina. Kind of leads a path to federal court and all the way down the road, as far as I'm concerned. But just, I guess we could jump down that path if you had any thoughts there.
Well, that's the biggest question everybody has is what does this mean? What's going to happen? I'm growing less and less convinced that this is heading towards federal court. And the reason why is because this week I started doing some research, since I've asked a dozen of my friends and a dozen other lawyers as to their opinions, and I can't get consensus. That burdens me with then having to go figure out something that's not my area of practice and doing additional research. And again, I am happy to be proven wrong by any expert that can actually definitively say what's happening. As I've said on many shows, I'm here to tell you where the bus has been. I'm not driving this bus. I'm not directing this bus. I'm just trying to explain to all of the FSU fans what's happening. So in this effort to prognosticate, there's your next word, Vince, for the cards.
The flashcards.
To prognosticate where we're going. There is a possibility in federal court to request removal of civil cases. However, that requires diversity, complete diversity of the parties. And that's what we're fighting over. Does Florida State do business in North Carolina? Is the ACC an entity operating in Florida? If the answer to either or both of those is yes, we don't have complete diversity. The second and bigger obstacle is that you need to have a request to remove a case to federal court within 30 days of being served with the complaint. We're well beyond 30 days on both of those cases. So the only method, and there is, of course, attorneys, it depends. We love saying it depends. If there is a change in the complaint, let's say there's a third amended complaint, it would have to involve antitrust, intellectual property, patent law, something that is a federal issue. Right now, there's no federal issues at litigation. So the 30 days would start from an amended complaint being served if there was a federal issue, but there is none. And I don't see one being brought. So I'm starting to buy into my friends' positions that say this is not going federal, in which case you have 2 parallel cases that can technically run concurrently. And based on the Constitution and the full faith and credit clause that we all heard when we were in middle school, whoever makes the decision first, whichever order comes from the court first, the other state has to respect. So now are we in a race? Again, this case is going to settle. This case is going to settle. We're not going that far down the railroad tracks, but everybody is asking what's going to happen. And to your point, George, about the thoughts percolating and thinking and learning more, April 12th, where I am today, I'm now starting to buy more and more into the idea that this is not going to end up in federal court.
If it's a race, then thank God for Judge Cooper ordering from the bench
Yeah.
immediately.
But he only made it through half the hearing.
I get it. But he's just getting warmed up, Doug.
It'll
He's
still be
just getting warmed
quicker
up.
if it finishes up on the 22nd. That'll still be quicker than the close to a month we had to wait for the other ones.
Can you imagine
maybe that's in his brain?
Can you imagine the chaos of two judges racing two trials to conclusion? I mean,
we better be ready to do
I'm
shows
going to
every
have to
night.
quit my job. I'm going to have to start a GoFundMe. You all are going to have to pay me to do this full time because that is going to be insane.
Well, guys,
And
I'm going to go
not-
ahead
and
and
not
throw
pay
the
you in
number
beer.
up here. Sorry to cut you off. I'm just going to throw the number up here. We've got Doug for about another 14 minutes. We want to give people a chance to give him a call. Go ahead, Vince. Sorry about that.
I would say, and not pay Doug with beer. Although that is great, that doesn't pay the bills.
Tastes good, though. I think
does
he gets
taste
something
good.
a little bit more fancy when he gets paid in alcohol. He's got maybe a bottle of scotch that's like a mortgage payment or
Little
something
bourbon.
like that or
Little
more.
bourbon.
Bullet
What are we
ride,
working on?
bullet
It is
ride,
happy hour,
every day.
folks.
Mhm.
We got the phone lines open for happy hour. So again, guys, if you have any questions for Mr. Rohan, myself, or Vince, now is the time. Speak now or forever hold your peace. I agree. I never thought it was going to go like actually get to federal court and play out because I believe the settlement comes, whatever happens before that, but I also don't think that it's going to ultimately get settled in state court. I just think you have the settlement, or maybe when they go to mediation there at some point in time like that. Does anybody have their predictions on that? I've been pretty steadfast in my prediction that you get a settlement sometime before that August date. I'm not 100% onto the June 30th, but I mean, that thing keeps getting bigger and a better chance more and more that the whole conference could fold. So it's really up in the air, but I'm curious if anybody has a strong opinion there. And we've got our guy Genetics 56 copying and pasting from Tomahawk Nation, bringing something here to the conversation. I appreciate you, bro.
Well, I've been pretty consistent, and I will put it out there. I'm sticking with it. Nothing has changed so far. I think that a deal is reached sometime this summer, but it's not publicized until August 16th. Sometime in that window between August 16th and August 23rd, before we kick off in Ireland on the 24th, I think that's when a deal will be announced. And I think the deal will be for $150 to $180 million. It's the exit fee plus a little bit more.
Yep.
But by waiting until August 15th, passing of August 15th, the ACC gets us for all of the 24 and all of the 25 season.
I like it.
I mean, just to hear that is like music to my ears, because now the fact
Oh,
when
it's saying
our
it's
prediction
gonna happen.
lines up, it's a beautiful time. It may go opposite ways, but here we are. Look at us, man. Here we are. We got our first caller live on the line. It says he's from Wisconsin. How's it going, man? You're live on the Renegade Rundown.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to know. There's 14 schools within the Big Ten conference that you're talking about. All current members have wrestling teams. Have you heard anything about? I get the whole medical school and that being a big thing for the conference. Have you heard anything about a wrestling team? Because I'm just stating that as well. I think that obviously you guys have quite literally one of the best programs in all of athletics. It'd be great to have games in Tallahassee, Florida. I wanted to say that as well. You saw some of those maps of, I guess, the Big Ten conference with some phallic symbols. I just wanted to say, I think getting penetration into the South.
I think I might have cut him off there. I'm not sure if he was
Your
trying to do
finger slipped.
puns,
Your finger slipped on the button.
but
Oh,
it was
you
like
were ready,
three
you
in
were
a
ready.
row there that we appreciate the call,
I
brother.
don't know if you all have any opinions also, but as a father,
Did I totally miss what just happened? Because I think I did.
you did.
Okay.
We're talking about fallacies and penetration.
Oh, okay.
With
Renegade Rundown.
with a with
So
my
is that a Miami
daughter-
fan, I wonder?
No,
Yeah,
he said
probably.
Wisconsin. He said was as a father of the senior trainer of the wrestling team for her high school team. I do feel like I have some qualifications to weigh in on this issue. Let me tell you how many linebackers and defensive linemen also participate in wrestling. And if we contemplate that Florida is a fertile football ground, then there is no question that there is a stable of hyper qualified wrestlers that could be D1 quality scholarship recipients at Florida State.
Let me
DJ
chime in
Lundy, I
on that.
believe, was a big time wrestler. And we keep speaking at the same time. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Vince.
it's fine. I've got quite a bit of family that's highly involved in the wrestling field because I'm from the New Jersey, Pennsylvania area, and so. But I will say that wrestling could happen. I don't know if we have a wrestling club team or not. I've never really heard about that. But remember, that whatever sport we add, you have to take Title IX into consideration as well. So while it would be awesome and I would enjoy it, I think it's more than just adding another sport to the ledger.
We do have a club, so there's that.
Okay, there you go.
And then you just add a ladies lacrosse team and it balances out.
Love it.
Or
Or field
ACC
hockey.
network's
It's
just like,
still-
where were you
Yeah, the
assholes
ACC
all this
network's, like,
time? We
sitting
could
here
have had
like-
something to show for FSU all this time.
The ACC network is like shaking with rage right now, going like, "Oh my God, we could have had Florida State women's lacrosse to show on Saturdays instead of Wake." You know, like what in the world? They would just be so upset with this new bit of information or whatever Boston College BS sports they show. I don't know. I just, yeah.
Yeah, that was a good question. Wrestling,
That's a good question,
in
yeah.
South and football, where our footprint is, it's not a huge thing. It's grown a lot because of the MMA, because of the UFC and things like that. But it's definitely not the biggest thing around here. But I would definitely be in for it. Those wrestlers are like some of the most mentally strong, tough, just dudes out there on the planet. So I wouldn't mind having those around, or guys consider coming here that might be maybe you get some of those Iowa linebackers that also wrestle. And we've got us another caller coming in here. You are live on the Renegade Rundown.
Hello, panel. My question is to Doug. What happens if the court case in South Carolina finishes first versus the one in Florida and the one in North Carolina? Thank you.
Great question, man.
It's a good question. It will give some insight as to how the ACC is treated, but we are not a party to the South Carolina lawsuit. That's why one of the multiverse options, and truthfully the most organized type A anal retentive version of the multiverse going forward, is all three suits, and presumably North Carolina's suit, once it's filed, are all brought together before Judge Bledsoe in North Carolina. That would be the most organized way to dispose of this scenario. Now, we have to be concerned about whether or not the ACC gets the home cooking from North Carolina. So we don't want that option, but that is one reasonable scenario that could play out as this continues going down the tracks.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I don't have much on that particular thing. Vince, you got anything
I do not.
on the lawsuit? I'm kind of running out. You've done an amazing job.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
As always. Is there anything you had on your mind? Anything that hasn't come out? I can try to think if there's anything we're missing. We've got about another 5 minutes with Doug. So, guys, if you have any more questions, now's your time. Speak now or forever hold your peace. And then we're going to get into spring ball after that and the transfer portal. That's the real big thing we got to talk about because it's coming around the corner fast.
One thing I want to point out is in the whole process of the case going forward, and in the material nature of the results, these first two hearings were not nothing burgers, but they certainly weren't surprises. They went the way we expected, and they had virtually no impact on the material nature of the case. This isn't the coin toss. This isn't the first quarter. We're still fighting over where we're going to have the coin toss. That's how early in the process we are. And I want to make sure all of our FSU fans and everybody else knows we haven't even heard the starting gun yet. If you ever played, baseball or, little league, you sit at the home plate, the two coaches get together and you come up with your ground rules. What's fair, what's foul, what obstacles do you have? What are you operating around? That's where we are right now. We're dealing with laying the ground rules for the lawsuit that is going to be coming.
Facts. And I could not be more excited. Still the 22nd, we'll just be laying those ground rules. And personally, that's been my opinion this whole time. I don't know if we ever get to that courtroom where the discovery actually gets ordered, or if it does get ordered, we ain't getting to the next one. That's for damn sure. There's no doubt about that. That's just my opinion. But I couldn't be more positive about it right now, for sure.
That brings up a good point. What is actually happening? What is next? What do the next 10, 15, 20 days hold?
Good point.
FSU has appealed the decision in North Carolina to the North Carolina Court of Appeals.
Appreciate you, Chris. Sorry.
No question that the ACC, we already know they lost in Florida. The ACC is going to appeal to the Florida Court of Appeals. So again, we're escalating this process. I don't know when we're going to get a written order from anybody about the first hearing because of the way that he ruled from the bench and what the procedure is for getting to the point where we have a piece of paper that's signed. So we have the April 22nd hearing coming up on the ACC's motion to dismiss, which is going to get denied, and the motion to seal or stay discovery, which is going to get denied. So we already know what April 22nd has. It's going to be, again, anticlimactic. I'll be happy to be on your show that week. I'll leave everything open that night. But
let's go. Maybe we can get you and Danielle at the same time and have a real good conversation.
Love that. With respect to what's next we go to the Court of Appeals. And the Court of Appeals could take weeks, if not months. It might be months.
Clear up a little confusion here because I believe, isn't it called the Federal Court of Appeals? But I think people can get confused and think that's like federal court. How's that called?
So each state has their Superior Court, Court of Appeals, Supreme Court. So in Georgia, they recently changed the procedures where you only go to the Court of Appeals except for constitutional issues, which go from the state court directly to the Supreme Court. So they were trying to cut down on the red tape. They're trying to cut down on the process. It used to be you went state court or Superior Court to the Court of Appeals and then to the Supreme Court for that state. Now, most states are going to if you're dealing with a constitutional issue, you go to the Supreme Court right away. If you're dealing with a contract dispute like we have here, you go to the Court of Appeals, and whatever the Court of Appeals says is final. So it will go to the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals will then render an opinion. And look, we're educating our fans on all kinds of law as we get to the point. So let's start talking about the Court of Appeals.
What a beautiful thing this is for Florida State fandom. I mean, shoot.
The Court of Appeals will either issue a de novo review, which is very rare, but that's where they tear the whole case down and build it back up. They have their own trial or hearing on the issue, or they're just answering a specific question. For example, the ACC might say, Judge Cooper has lost its mind. There's no reason we should be fighting or citing to patent cases on a contract dispute. He overstepped his bounds. We want the Court of Appeals to say that Judge Cooper cannot use patent cases as the foundation for his decision. So the Florida Court of Appeals would issue an order remanding the case to Judge Cooper saying, you were wrong. Patent cases don't apply. You need to rethink your logic and come up with another reason as to why Florida State should win, or overturn your decision and say that the ACC should win. That's how the Court of Appeals work. But that takes 3 months, 90 days for a hearing to be set, another 60 days for an order to be issued.
Wow.
It's going to be September before the North Carolina Court of Appeals.
Wow. I'm glad you said that's big. That's big. So just to get to the appeal, possibly, I mean, even if it's freaking August, even if it's, the end of June, I mean, just think about that. That's the very first appeal. It may be May before we get done with, the first case in Florida. Then you get the first appeal there. How long is it going to be till we get to that? And guys, the cutoff dates here. I mean, you've only got till February of 2025 for ESPN. You've got June 30th for the members to decide if they want to leave. So it's just that there's just no way in hell this litigation gets settled in time for everybody to, leave happy. So I love that was a very good spot to end it, I guess. But man, we sure appreciate you joining us. I guess just any parting words? I know we got to plug your law firm. We got to do that.
I appreciate that.
If you want to let the people know in Georgia where they can come to get taken care of.
Rohan Law is based out of Atlanta. We handle primarily workers' compensation injuries, accidents, and criminal defense. So we want to be your best friends on your worst day. I really hope none of your listeners ever need me, because that's a really crappy day if they do. But if they need somebody to help them in Atlanta or anywhere in Georgia, if they've been hurt at work, then Rohan Law is the firm you should call. We're going to be handling your case with all the tenacity and all the detail with which we've handled this situation. Somebody was saying that it was amazing how 12 people were tweeting and reporting on the Florida hearing, and yet my reporting in North Carolina was twice as good. So it brought a tear to my eye. That's how much we're into the cases that we do handle. I was
nothing like a good pat on the back every once in a while.
Office at 4:30 this morning to prepare for a trial on Tuesday, because that's what the client was requiring and what they needed. So follow me on Twitter, follow me on social media, whatever platform you do. I hope you don't need me, but that way you have an existing relationship with me. Reach out to me, send me messages. I'm constantly replying to people's messages. So call us and we'll be happy to help you out.
Beautiful.
So, Doug, are you going to be at the spring game in case I don't talk to you? No.
Yep, I know. I'm going to be in Denver, unfortunately, at a conference. I was very sad to learn of that date once they posted it, because this was a conference I had on my calendar for about a year. I will be in Ireland, and I will be posting frequently as to where you can find me. I'm actually going to be getting together with Vince on some guerrilla warfare tactics that we're going to have planned for a certain individual from ESPN that will likely also be in Ireland. I'm not naming names. I'm not suggesting who, but let me say, it has been a blessing to watch my numbers on Twitter as far as followers explode. Please follow me. But we do have some gravitas now, and I plan to use that show again that we have not forgotten December 3rd.
No.
Beautiful.
I'll never forget. I won't forget. I won't back down. I won't stop. I'm sorry. Y'all can all kiss my ass. The next fan that's like, you got to get over it. I'll never get over it.
Never.
We're just getting started.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Sorry.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Absolutely.
Happy Friday.
Thanks
again, man. We'll see you next time, brother.
Bye.
Yeah, like I'm never getting over it. I am never getting over it. Never, ever, 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 ever. We are never, ever getting back together. In the words of the great Taylor Swift. Sorry, guys, I did it.
Yes, no, it's fair. I agree. We're never, ever, ever getting back together. I'm with you on that. And I
don't care how many dogs he has.
Oh my God, I gave him so much help for that. It's like, dude,
who?
Really? And he only replies to people with no followers.
Yeah.
We've talked about it like ad nauseum. This guy sent me this thing, so I'm not 100% if I can make it to Ireland. So I may have to get this to you or Doug or Jen or somebody, but this thing will get to Ireland. It's going, that's my responsibility to get this thing over there. So we're going to get this thing over there, and we're going to be glorious. Have some fun. Unfortunately, there is another person who the rumor is, nothing official, of course, because again, the transfer portal post-spring session opens this coming Monday, April 15th. The first kind of reported person that's planning to enter their portal, we found out, I believe, yesterday, Greedy Vance, a guy who transferred over from Louisville. We kind of traded him for Jarvis Brownlee thereafter. I believe it was the 2021 season. He's been a great player for us. He played a ton of snaps in that slot cornerback position. But if you've watched the show, we've talked about it here a ton. that the DB room period is stacked, but especially that slot cornerback position, because there aren't two of them like you have with cornerback. There's only one slot cornerback position, and there is a logjam there. You had Greedy Vance, obviously. Kevin Knowles comes back from his safety position, back home to where he's much more comfortable there at the slot cornerback. You bring in an Earl Little Jr., who's just an all-world athlete on the rise to get coached by Patrick Surtain. A lot of rumors about him possibly locking that down. And then behind them, you have a guy named Edwin, and I always forget his last name. Edwin Joseph. Thank you, Jen.
You're welcome.
Jen's got to keep that thing on lock for me. Edwin Joseph. And I made a tweet today. Everybody's going to know his name by the end of this year because Edwin Joseph is a beast. He's kind of built for that cornerback position when you look at his build out there on the field. Really excited to see Edwin Joseph out there killing it. But also you have 5 cornerbacks you just brought in. So whether it's BJ or whether it's whichever guy that ends up playing, somebody's going to see snaps there. Last year, he backed up Jarian Jones, who really came on the past couple years. There was a time that Greedy was ahead of Jarian Jones. Jarian moves over there at slot and really locked that thing down. He was a freak last year. So just didn't look like he was going to get the snaps. I'm not mad at it. I'm super happy for the guy. I hope he goes somewhere where he can play 500, 600, 700 snaps and get that draft pick because he wasn't going to be a first, second round draft pick. He really just needs to go out there and show things. And if he had some injuries like in Akeem Dent or something, when you're only going to get 200-300 snaps and you get hurt of something, it could really be a risky proposition for him. So I have no hard feelings. I think he'll be one of these ones where he gets the tweet from Mike Norvell. And I'm curious on both y'all's thoughts on that. And then we can get into kind of talking about who everybody thinks could possibly hit the portal and things to that.
Well, I don't have the more football take. I'm just going to be a troll here. But can you imagine waking up and making the trade of Greedy, like taking Brownlee for Vance? Like, I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, Brownlee's probably a nice enough kid, but he never stops yapping that mouth. And all he ever does is get burnt 24/7. Like, I'm old enough to remember Tate Rodemaker absolutely destroying Jarvis Brownlee at Louisville. And then, like last year, he started running his mouth before the game. He's like, "Oh, can't wait to get this revenge." What revenge, sir? What revenge? What revenge? Did you get taller, bigger, or learn how to,
Oh boy,
cover a wide receiver? Is that what we did?
Well,
anyway,
we got a caller coming in here.
We got a caller. I'm sorry, I took your spot.
What?
I took Vince talking. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We're going to take the caller. You're going to love this one. Tiny Hat Gang, I believe, is in the building.
Oh, I know what he's going to talk about.
Yes. Tiny Hat CEO has returned to the Renegade Rundown. What is going on, people? I see all of y'all up here doing work. That is great. I'm on the road right now, so if you hear some wind going by, me and my caravan are actually riding down the block here. I was actually taken to a shelter. We just came from a shelter out here where we have evidence that John Swaffer was a part of the reason why OJ was able to get off, because he was out there mishandling evidence with the rest of the LAPD, just like he mishandled this ACC conference over all these years, okay? If y'all worried about what they gonna find with the Raycom joint, just wait until you see what comes out with what we found with him being in bed with the LAPD out here, okay? Allegedly, just to make sure that we don't have legal on our behind.
Allegedly.
But either way, shout out to Greedy Vance. Hey, listen, you did work while you were an old baby. You decided that you wanted to go on the greener pastures. Hopefully it works out for you. But we are not going to talk trash about the players that leave. We talking trash about the people who did dirt in office and got the hell out of here, okay? Swaffer, we own you, bruh. We are on you, okay? The ACC, we are on you, all right? And I wanted to give a shout out to all of the Wisconsin Badger fans that saw what I did last week when I was talking about those trash Golden Gophers, and they decided that they wanted to speak up. I don't have nothing bad to say about you, Wisconsin, okay? I have nothing bad to say about you. One of the things that I love about Wisconsin is that y'all, first off, are Badgers, so we can go ahead and feed you some warm milk, since that's all y'all drink up there in Wisconsin. That's why y'all out there bailing all of that hay, and you can't do nothing but produce offensive linemen. But the one thing that I love about y'all is that y'all stay beating the Hurricanes down. The Hurricanes can't seem to get over that Wisconsin hump. So to all of the Wisconsin Badger fans, we're going to feed you your warm milk after y'all come in from baling hay, milking cows, and doing whatever else you're doing with your besties up there with their udders. And we're going to say, go ahead, good night, because Florida State is going to come up there, and we're going to run down on y'all on the green field up there. Go get your cows and have them eat the grass so that it's longer. That way all of that speed that we coming up there with ain't going to run you off of the damn field. Okay? That's what y'all can do. So I wanted to give y'all a shout out. The Tiny Hat CEO is still out here on the streets. We are pounding the pavement because we are doing all of the dirty work to make sure that Florida State gets out of this conference. Okay? Tiny Hat gang, we out.
Appreciate you, Tony. As always, comes through with the flames. Sorry about that. I know this thing has been kind of a little all over the place, but that's just how we do it around here, Vance. Sorry to cut you off. But
No, it's great.
As far as Greedy Vance in the portal, we'll try to get back into it. What are your thoughts on Greedy? And just take it away, man. It's your show.
Greedy, I am happy with what he did while he was here. I mean, I can't be anything but happy about that. And I posted in the comment here, at least Jarvis has the poster. Like he has a poster of himself being posterized, and that's what he gets as a parting gift. But Greedy, no love lost, man. You got to do what's right for you. He always did what he needed to do and came and played and never ran his mouth. And he, nothing but love for him as he goes out the door.
Absolutely. Go do you, boo. Get your money. We appreciate everything you did. So I have nothing to say other than that. And thank you for replacing Brownlee. There you go. I mean, that's what you did. That was amazing. We didn't have to watch that garbage out on the field. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that, but you know what I meant. Garbage play. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
before I get
sure.
canceled.
Look, here's the thing. And here's what I'm going to tell everybody watching right now. If you are worried and really upset about Greedy, all I can say is buckle up, Buttercup, because there's more coming. Here's the thing. I spoke about this a lot last year. I haven't really spoke about it much so far in this kind of since we've been in this recruiting season here this spring. We have seen a development from 2020 to 21 to 22 to 23 of Florida State, Mike Norvell, Derek Ray, flipping this roster little by little. By 2022, you're up to a 31% blue chip ratio. Last year, you jump up 41-42. You make another leap to over 61% this year, okay? You had 26-27 blue chips on the roster, period, last year. You bring in 26-27 this year. But more importantly, even in the top 40, if you want to look at recruiting rankings and stuff, it's the bottom 30. I mean, we were getting rid of 10, 15, 20 guys every single year and replacing them with guys. Basically playing this game, and I use this analogy a lot on here, that 5-card draw game your grandpa played, it sends out 5 cards, you hold 2, and you draw 3 more. That's basically what they've been doing with this roster through the portal, and not in nasty ways, not pushing people out the door. It's just there's guys that are here from the former administration or that you signed in 20 or 21 and took a chance on that just didn't pan out. You've got like 8 guys left from 20, 8 guys left from 21, 10 or so from, and then you go on. But the majority of the roster, half the roster is from the past 2 years, and they're all blue chips. So when you look up and down the roster, who are the guys you can lose? Like, who are the guys that leave and you're not worried about it, that are going to go to a lower level, that are going to do like this? There's just not 10, 15 of them left. And we can go down, and I'm curious who the guys on your top of your list who think Mike could go. But it's just a component of getting better. When you're Alabama and you're 99% blue chip ratio, the people that transfer out, guess what? They're going to be blue chips. So it's just when you're passed up by younger players and you bring in a sophomore, redshirt sophomore, whatever he is, and he passes you up on the depth chart. It's like you can't blame a guy for leaving. And there's going to be more. But yeah. Curious on your thoughts.
There is going to be more, and I just want to reiterate what you said, because I think Noel fans are a little still gun shy about what happened, 3, 4, 5 years ago, where somebody decided to leave or left the program or whatever. You're like, well, who else do we have? We have people now. Mm-hmm. And so this whole continuing to bring in the best people in top grade constantly, right? And so when people are going to leave because of that, and I think we have to get past the 2020 mentality, the 2021 mentality. The team is deeper. The team is more talented, and the team is also, by the way, locked in with this staff. So when people leave, it's not because they are looking for a better place because Florida State sucks. That's not why they're leaving now. They're
Facts.
leaving because they maybe they don't see a path for them in what's happening currently with the climb. So I think we're just jaded a little bit, and we're kind of like gun shy about that. We need to get past that. We're in a different place now.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. I warn people, now we're here. When I think about guys that could possibly transfer, it's tough because, like we just got through saying, there's like nobody that there was a time, and I won't go back and name names. Maybe we were just talking about one with a Jarvis Brantley. There's a time like when you really looked at the roster and you're like, man, I would not mind this guy to go. I would not mind that guy to go. There is just those guys don't exist, and we're close to 90 scholarships right now. We might be a little over it, something like that. I haven't done the count here lately, but we're also on a scholarship reduction. So we just, we've got to get rid of another 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys, depending on, we're also going to possibly bring in a guy or two. And that's another something we'll get into in a few minutes. But I guess if I could I'll give people 3 people that could possibly transfer, or my 3 most likely just off the top of my head. I would say, as crazy as it is, Kevin Knowles, I worry about him. I kind of thought he was going to be the one to transfer out of that group. So when Greedy left before, I was a bit surprised. Maybe he ends up being more locked in due to the fact that a Greedy left. Maybe he thinks he can get the snaps there. And again, this is any kind of reporting. This is just looking at the facts of the room, kind of who I think will be gone. We hadn't mentioned Josh Burrell. He's actually already named his intentions to leave. But elsewhere, offensive line, there's really a kind of log jam. You've got guys like Jalen Early, Julian Armella, Bryson Estes that have been here for a lot of years. They're coming up on 3rd, 4th year. So I could definitely see one of that group possibly transferring out. But again, it's like there's not one offensive lineman I could really pick that's like a weak link that I want to get out of here. You go to the defensive end group, and it's like I really like everybody. Aaron Hester, like, could he leave? Possibly. He's another guy that comes up, first to mind when you think of a guy that's been here 2 or 3 years you haven't heard a ton of. And then there's also Brian Courtney, I guess would be my other one that's kind of likely, just because, getting switched to linebacker, back to linebacker. He is somebody on the team that could probably go to another little bit lower level and start. But anyways, those are the kind of the first guys on the top of my mind, but curious what you guys are thinking.
I don't have specific names. I think I'm going to kind of go the way you're going there and say, I think you have to look at the type of player that they're in, kind of that middle ground, right? They came in and they've been working for a while, right? Like the linemen, right? But they haven't really seen a lot of playing time yet. And so they're not a household name for us. So I think those are the names you're going to see. I was surprised when Greedy Vance decided as well. And I think the reason why it wasn't Kevin Knowles is because, last year wasn't maybe the great film that he needed to put on tape for other opportunities to present themselves. And I'm not faulting him at all. I mean, he was playing out of position kind of, and trying to do things that maybe are not in his skill set. But maybe that's the reason why. And he is looking now saying, this is more what I'm built to do. And so I'm going to put my all into that. So that was maybe my opinion on why it was Greedy rather than Knowles.
Yeah. And we got to also remember there's a guy coming in that pretty much locked down when he played him. 2 of the best wide receivers in JoJo Trader and Jeremiah Smith in a playoff game. Jen's favorite player, Ricky Knight, they've got him pegged to play in the slot. So when you had him, right, to Edwin Joseph and Earl Little Jr., it really is a logjam there. It wouldn't surprise me. This is kind of off topic, but how about Devontae Brown? the revelation he's been coming in to play at safety. I mean, he's
That's
just
wild.
it's beautiful. We all wanted him. They recruited the hell out of him last year. He decides to go to Miami, but it just really shows the difference of when you get somebody in a spot. He could win that thing over Conrad Hussey. I thought it was a foregone conclusion. Hussey was going to win it. I'm still going to hope with that. I'm not going to change, but it's going to be a legitimate 3-man rotation there at safety. There's no doubt about it. We've got 3 studs. But yeah, curious, Jen, is there anybody on top of your mind that you worry about transferring or anything before we move on to something else?
No, I'm a little worried about Armella. I think a little bit because I don't
Moving
feel
into
like
guard.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about that. So I'm not putting on a Temple hat. I have not heard anything. It's just a worry that I have. And you do hear, maybe certain people saying things, but it's nobody that, you would, put it out there for. I'm just saying that does worry me because our offensive line issues, I feel like they can't stay healthy. It's been an issue. And I feel like losing a player like Julian Armella would be something that would give me a little bit of concern. But again, I can't say that because I'm not in practice every day and I'm not, watching. And maybe there would be a reason because he feels like other people are way better. I don't know. But I would hate to lose a player like him. I just would.
It's a patience thing. Like he's getting this will be his 3rd year?
Yeah.
This will be his 3rd year. So I mean, he's right to the point now where it's time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and he's got the ability, and the question is, how patient can people be?
Especially this day and age, with God knows. I mean, I'm not accusing anybody of tampering. I'm saying offensive linemen.
Everybody.
Yes. I mean, yes. I mean, I'm saying it too. I'm just not saying it maybe. But like every offensive lineman of his size, stature, talent would be extremely wanted, especially in this second portal. I don't care what anybody says. It doesn't matter what his on-field production has been because I know he's a backup, but I'm sorry, but offensive lineman in the portal is the biggest moneymaker you can possibly make for yourself at this point.
Yeah, Julian Elamrella and Bryson Estes, you're right on that. It's about patience because I don't think it's really their year, either one of them. We've seen them get kind of praised a little bit here and there in the spring camp, but are they willing to wait? You look and see a Darius Washington. He's been here 6 years, and now, bam, he's the man. Like, he's the starting left tackle, the biggest guy on the team. Robert Scott's been the starting tackle the past 4 years. He's slid inside to guard. So when you talk about Estes and Armella getting snaps, it's really tough. You got TJ Ferguson, you got Richie Leonard coming over from Florida.
Yeah.
It's tough goings. Our offensive line, I wouldn't be worried. I'd hate for it to happen. He's a legacy. I wouldn't want him to leave, but it wouldn't worry me whatsoever as far as that group. Like, I feel really strong. I'm on record that this is going to be the best offensive line we've had to date. And you're going to have the most yards from running backs this year from that group, from that offensive line. It's going to be the rest, kind of run game we've seen. Really, really excited from what we see there. I think we're going to have those short yardage situations, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. You're not going to have near as much trouble. But again, guys, this number is popping up. We're at 350 people with us live. Again, if you have any questions for myself, Vince, or Jen, hit the phone line, 850-495-1906, right there.
Do we have any wide receiver information? Because, obviously.
That is definitely a good one. There's a log jam there too. I mean, you bring in a bunch of stud wide receivers. You bring in a guy like Lane McCoy, who's already killing it. You got Van Dravius Jacobs as a sophomore. You've got Hakeem Williams as a sophomore, who I've got pegged as a starter. You bring in Malik Benson and you peg him as a starter outside. Where does that leave Kentron Portier? I love Kentron. I was hoping this was gonna be his breakout year, but at the same time, when I was looking at that depth chart and he was out there starting, I'm thinking, well, if he gets hurt, this and that. So I can't lie. Having a Malik Benson, I've been so hyped about having him come in.
Yeah.
It stinks, but it is what it is. We'll see how camp plays out. Unfortunately, Kentron hasn't been able to stay available. but he also has a super high ceiling. And if you're going to talk about Kentron, you got to talk about a guy like Darion Williamson, who's been here for 2 or 3 years. He's had some good opportunities, but he's had the drops. He hasn't quite put it together in a game. Would he be better suited going somewhere, with a fresh start? But I guess that's a good one. How are you feeling about wide receiver? Are there any names you worry about there?
I think the main thing for me is just, if you look at last year, one of the things that may be keeping people around is that the injuries happened, man. They happened in a big way to that group. And Mike Norvell, if anything, he's going to spread the ball around and get people the touches if they are working, right? So I think that in and of itself is like, hey, last year happened. All these people got hurt, and I wasn't ready. That's not going to happen again. I am going to be ready this time. And so it's tough to know who those names are. The people like Kentron, who got hurt, yes. Darion was hurt, and Darion's been hurt a lot too, right? So, I mean, we haven't seen the possibilities yet because of the injuries that have been going on with this group.
I mean, if we think about the Pitt game, right? Before the Pitt game, what did we have? 6 wide receivers out?
That was bad. We were down to like what, 2? I think we had 2 or 3 is all we had left.
It was
receivers.
That was insane to me. That was insane. So I hope I'm not saying I hope you have patience and stick with, if you can make more money, go make them more money. I totally get that. I'm not saying that. But if you can't, if it's going to be on par, then stay. You never know, right? Then next year, maybe you'll get more money, right?
I don't think anybody's leaving for money. I think it's just going to be
it's going to be playing time.
Part of it, but kind of like what he was saying, I think. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Everybody cries about college football is falling apart. There's no way we can manage this and all this stuff. I love Kenny Dillingham's quote. He's like, dude, I was like just dying to tote coffee for one of these head coaches 10 years ago. I worked my way up here and I'm young. This is like what we do. And I look at what Mike Norvell and Derek Ray's doing. Looks like it's working like a fine, well-oiled machine to me. I mean, you got a beautiful culture, all this stuff. How many guys are leaving and you hear them talking shit out the way? 90% of them are getting a kiss on the cheek and a pat on the butt and, good luck. There's some stuff that doesn't work out, but no, it's I'm not with, they're talking about doing a free agency thing, interseason, transfers and stuff like that's out there.
Lord.
But to me, this is just, it's from the NCAA from the beginning. It's like they lost their lawsuits. They were forced into it. So they came with a half-assed set of guidelines. They asked them to be more stringent. They did the whole thing with the transfers last year where they made an example out of Darrell Jackson and a couple other people you never heard of. They're just wanting to be able, you want it? No rules. Look, mayhem. Y'all got to come begging for me. Y'all are going to come begging for structure. But unfortunately for the NCAA, it ain't going to happen. These conferences are going to look at a Norvell. They're going to look at something that can work. They're going to get this thing in-house. If anything happens, I think you end up with a Big Ten and an SEC come up with some kind of commissioner that governs both of them, some kind of, AFC, NFC situation. But the NCAA is just a nightmare. I'm sorry to go off on this rant, but they really, really piss me off.
We do need structure. We do need structure, but it ain't going to come from the NCAA.
No,
it's going to be something new, and we need it though. We need it because coaches have to know who's on their team, and they have to be able. I mean, could you imagine going to work in your job? Imagine going to work, and you never know who's going to be on your team day one, day in and day out. I don't know how they do it, but they have to know who is on their team, and there have to be some guardrails. So that's a whole nother show.
Yeah, for sure. And we've only got about another, 10 minutes. It's crazy. The viewers keep coming up. And Vince, I don't know how long you have. If you've got to go or anything,
I'm good.
anytime, we appreciate you. We're up to 374 now, so we're gonna keep it rolling for another 10, 15 minutes. Deuce Spann is a name that comes up a lot. Deuce Spann came into Florida State in that giant transfer class with Johnny Wilson's Micah. He was a quarterback at one point in time, switched to wide receiver. He's got kind of all the tools, but the time's kind of running out, 22, 23. This is going to be his 3rd year. He's getting up junior, senior. So I could see him transferring somewhere. Again, all this talk, none of this is in your reporting. We're just talking about position groups and guys possibly who could, see an advantage to leaving and going somewhere else. I could see Deuce Spann possibly going somewhere smaller, and they could really prioritize him, just get him the ball, similar to what we had to do in Mike Norvell's offense the first couple of years. Find out who your actual playmakers are, just whether it's a jet screen or whatever the case may be. Somebody could bring him along in a better way for him than Florida State this year when you have so many tools everywhere. I just don't see a path for him to be a guy to get more than 5-10 snaps a game personally, but maybe he proves me wrong. But I definitely agree with the chat there that he could be a possible time to go somewhere.
He could be, because I mean, how many gadget guys can you have?
Right. And just brought in Jalen Lucas.
And we just brought in Jalen Lucas, who apparently, and I don't want to say he's overtaken Deuce Spann or whatever, but there's another benefit there with him with the return game, right, and all that. So, I mean, how many can you have? How many scholarship positions are you going to take up with that? So I get that.
Without a doubt.
Oh, I just saw a comment, and guys, I appreciate this, but college football needs a Congress. What college football does not need is for the government to get involved. Like, if you want to ruin the game, there you go. Hi, I'm the government and I'm here to help, right? No. No.
I'm with the commissioner, but yeah, it doesn't have to be Congress. We just need somebody to get together. We need somebody to make a true effort.
Like a commissioner for sure.
NCAA, they didn't want to do shit. Their plan was for mayhem and to go back. Their whole plan was somehow, how can we possibly convince people, that we can't afford to pay these kids and to keep it the same way it is.
Well, the NCAA wanted to keep, they wanted to keep power and they wanted to keep money. That's why they didn't do anything else about this. That's why they didn't fix it. That's why they didn't appoint a commissioner. That's why they didn't pay these, the players. That's why all these things, they wanted to keep all the money. These nonprofit NCAA people, right, are making what? $800,000 a year? 500? The head of the NCAA makes an ungodly amount of money. So this nonprofit, which is amazing to me that you can make that much money in a nonprofit. Tell me how that works someday. So yeah, it's about power and money. So they're not going to change it if it loses them power or money. That's just how it is.
There hasn't been any vision in that organization since I've been alive. They want to stay in the 1940s and the 1950s, but we're not there anymore. And they had no vision to move forward. Had someone come in there and had a vision to kind of figure out where this thing was going, then maybe. And if we don't get if we don't get our ducks in a row, Congress is going to get involved, and then we are all going to be sorry for it.
Lord have mercy.
Facts.
You're going to have
just get over it, guys.
Yeah, you're going to have like senators and stuff like making money off kickbacks off of how they do. If you don't believe me, I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, you don't want that.
No, I think we all agree. We all understand. We don't need all that shit. Just get your shit together. The NCAA, they're playing a weak game of trying to say, oh, we need Congress to come save us. It's not going to happen. Stay away. Stay as far away as Jen said. We can figure this thing out on our own. I think the biggest thing is figuring out what happens in the conferences in the next 2 years. Once conference realignment happens, then we can kind of get a network and get parameters around it. Right now, it's hard. Who's going to go stump? They could have spent all this $100 million in consultant fees to figure out a brand new way to run the Pac-12 with NIL, and then it collapsed. So the ACC, the Big 12, their future's kind of up in there. I think the answer is going to be SEC, Big 10, get together, figure it out, and then everybody's going to kind of follow suit. But who knows? We'll see. Is there anywhere anybody wants to go? Vince, is there anything on your mind you want to talk about? DJU, how you're feeling about spring practice? You got a hot take you want to get off on that before we get out of here? People aren't doing good with the questions. Y'all are letting us down again. We got 430 people in here. No phone calls, no questions in the chats. Come on, guys. If y'all want us to go for another 10, 15 minutes, it's up to y'all.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have a hot take, but I've been encouraged by the spring practice reports that we're seeing and hearing and reading. I think a lot of us have been saying, and I think we're all kind of on the same page, is that we all believe next year's team is going to be a better team. And the reports that we're hearing about that bear that out, right? It's going to look different, but I think ultimately as a team, the team will be a better team. That doesn't mean, I mean, how can you get better than 13-0? So I'm not talking about wins and losses. I'm talking about like the team getting better, the program getting better, and all of those things. I think that's going to happen. DJU, you know, I think he's fulfilling everything that we brought him in to be thus far. If anybody thought he was going to come in and know everything from the get-go and just be, you know, heir apparent, you know, things, when you make a transition like that, it takes time. And so the early things you heard about that, it didn't shock me. I know it didn't shock you guys. But if you're kind of more of the casual fan, maybe you worried about that. I'm not worried about that at all.
No. Do you know, guys? Do
Somebody
you guys
wants
know?
to know your first game. But
Oh,
Yes.
my first game.
Oh,
My
no,
first
go ahead.
game was Blockbuster Bowl 1990 against Penn State.
like 2 months before I was born.
Wow.
February 27th, 1991, baby.
The first time I saw the Knowles live was at that game.
That's beautiful. Who were we playing?
Penn State.
Penn State. Ooh, that was a damn good bowl game. I was just, my mom was swole up with me at that point in time. Chuck Stone says, "Are you guys ready for some shots in lot 5?" I know me and Jen are. We're trying to peer pressure Vince. Didn't you say we're not sure? Or was that Rohan? Are you going to be there?
I am going to be there. Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm going to be there. Yes. I'm not a shot guy, but I am more than happy to partake.
We'll see. We'll see if you come to the
I may do
Spear
one.
Addicts
How about that? I may do
tailgate.
one.
You guys are locked in, right? Y'all are going to come help out with the tailgate.
We're going to come. We're going to set up our kind of little setup within the kingdom there, and we're going to have a great time.
Beautiful. So now it's Unconquered 850 is going to be there. Garnet Knoll's going to be there. They're going to have a little setup. Me and Jen are going to be there helping out, of course, to go along with the main three. Den Media Group, Dope Talk, and Spear Addicts, of course, last but not least. This thing's going to be huge, man. Last year we had this thing, and it was, I mean, pretty much everybody's platforms have tripled or quadrupled since then. Chris and James were both around 2,000-3,000 subs. They're like 6,000 on top of everything else they do, putting out articles. And of course, we got Garnet Knoll with us. We've watched them grow right up here alongside of us. We've both been doing this thing for about a year now. It really is a beautiful thing. And we love the community. We love all the chat people. It's all about Florida State football. We really are lucky to kind of have Florida State football, and it's a beautiful time right now. If you're out there crying and bitching and moaning and complaining about little things that's going on, I don't know what to tell you, because we've got literally a top 5 coach in the game who, in my opinion, is like, if not the best evaluator, one of the very best evaluators out there. Say what you want about recruiting. I think he's one of the best in the world at that too. I think he's just certain guys, you know, it's a tough mold. That clip where he says, like, if you're going to come to Florida State, it's got to be to a different level. That shit isn't hyperbole. It isn't coach talk. You keep hearing it from everybody. Coach Storms and what he is can't be undersold. He is a legit, like, game changer in that. And everybody you see at the Combine, anybody that was with him at Memphis, you hear the same things. It's just a beautiful thing. We're going to be really lucky. But yeah, get to that tailgate, because if you don't, you're missing out. There's going to be.
I think with Coach Storms, I just want to say one thing. If anybody doesn't understand how many programs reach out to him, I can't. I mean, look, they're huge programs, but he is loyal to not like just being loyal, but he loves where he is. He loves what he's doing. And that's how good he is. This dude is one of the most wanted strength and conditioning coaches in college football right now. And I'm not kidding. And this is not garnet colored glasses. He was when he was at Memphis too, by the way. So it's what he's done is amazing. So we all just need to put out a special shout out for Coach Storms.
Facts. Built by Storms. That's a real thing. Brian Simmons says, I got something for shots at the tailgate. Word to the wise, Vince. If you're not a shot guy and you maybe you'll dabble at this tailgate, go to the table with the regular liquor. I mean, it's all you can eat, all you can drink at these things. They've got Crown, they've got everything you want, all the good liquors, but don't go to Brian Simmons, man. Just be careful because he's got
I have
something
been
for
warned.
you. Okay,
I have been
okay,
warned.
we've already got that warning. But if you do play, if you're one of those drinkers and you want to have a good time, you want to be wobbling around, go see Brian. He'll take care of you. That's for sure. There's no doubt about it. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, guys-
So I have a question for everybody. I mean, what's the Tallahassee airport car situation like? Am I going to be better to order one, or should I just do an Uber when I'm waiting for my luggage?
That's
I haven't
gonna
been there
be
in
for you.
so
I've got
long.
no answers on that one.
Okay. I haven't been there in so long. I just needed some info.
We're
I live within
driving,
driving
so-
distance, so
Mm.
it's hard for me.
I got to fly from the Memphis airport to Tallahassee, which are the two worst airports in the country, by the way.
I can tell
To
you, I've
get in and
never
out
heard
of.
anything good about it. Unfortunately, I wish I could tell you something good, but I've heard it's a nightmare. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, you don't have to do a ton of driving. I mean, really, I don't know how far the hotel
No,
we're
I'm
staying
not
at is
renting a
away from
car.
it.
I was saying, should I order a car to pick me up, like a car service, or should I just do an Uber at the airport? Because some airports are weird
You
about the
should be able to
Ubers coming
Uber.
to get you. Okay.
I can't say as far as the airport, but I haven't had any problem getting Ubers in Tallahassee. It's nothing like Orlando. Like Orlando, I couldn't catch an Uber to save my life when I was down there. But knock on wood, I haven't had any issues. Especially with it being spring game week, there'll probably be Ubers out the ass.
Okay, cool. Somebody said everybody gets a ride. Okay, so Uber's good there now. Okay, awesome.
Boom.
Last time I was there, it was a nightmare. So I'm just asking the question.
All right, guys. Well, I mean, this thing is banging. There's like a lot of people in here. It's been an absolute blast, but we've kind of reached the end of the rope, guys. Not much going on. We don't want to just be on here talking to talk. So we appreciate everybody joining us. I guess this is going to be the end of the show unless y'all hit a question in the next 30 seconds. Again, make sure you go follow Jen at Jen Santee 1890 on X. VC Knoll at VC Knoll. You can go follow our guy Vince. Vince, you want to let everybody know what you've got going on? Plug your channel. Let them know what you've got coming up. The floor is yours, brother.
I appreciate it. Yeah. At VC Knoll, what you already said, we do right now just a weekly show called Garnet and Old. I am the old part of the team with my cohort Big Papa East. Ryan.
Big Papa East.
And we do a show every Thursday night at 7. We just actually launched our membership tiers and Discord server.
Congratulations.
So we're really excited about that. And you can find that on YouTube, of course, Garnet and Old. And we love everybody. By the way, I love the community we have here, right? I love coming on and talking with you guys. I love when you guys come on our show, and it's just the way this thing should be. Knowles, it's the Knoll family, and I love it. And so thank you, George, for inviting me on here. But Thursday nights, and then for the spring game, we'll be at the spring game. We'll have a tent there as well, and we're actually going to be doing kind of a post game or a pre-spring game show and a post show as well, live from the tailgate. So.
Nice.
Boom.
I
That'll be
love
fun.
that.
That will be a lot of fun. Yeah, I couldn't agree. Rising tides, rise all ships. And I'm a big member, believer in that. Just like the ACC should have been with the FSU and Clemson and weren't. We're going to try to do that thing. But yeah, I agree 100%. Jen, anything before we get out of here?
No, I'm good.
All righty. Well, we love you guys. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on Twitter and YouTube. It was about half and half. So of the couple 200 or 300 people watching on Twitter, if you could get over to YouTube and just subscribe to @the Renegade Report, and also our guy Vince's channel @Garnet and Old, we'd really appreciate it. Get over here, subscribe, like this video. Even if you're just going to keep watching it on X, subscriptions on YouTube are huge in every view. So if you could do that, we'd really appreciate you guys. And Terrence, back up. I don't know if you're talking to the chat, Russ. Yeah, we're not much substance. We're just talking to our family right now. So kick rocks, dude. But yeah, we love everybody here. We'll leave you guys with some Carlos Williams and Trub Life Jr., as we are still pissed off about that playoff snub. So we'll keep playing this one until we get something better to play as we get. Maybe we'll do a spring camp highlight after the spring game. But we love you guys. Go Noles.
Hey, man. FSU versus everybody. Let's go. First off, fuck Bama in the roll tide. Fuck Tuscaloosa in every city that's close by. Bitch ass hillbilly redneck fans. Auburn almost caught y'all slacking like dress pants. Michigan trash, they ain't got a damn chance. Only Wolverine I respect is X-Man. Keen ass coach got exposed, still in plays. Damn right I'm bitter, y'all sweeter than lemonade. Take